Well, The Athletic just dropped its top 100 college football rivalries, and let's just say where they rank the Egg Bowl is raising eyebrows. Love it or hate it, this list makes a statement. So where did Mississippi State versus Ole Miss land, and did they get it right?
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com. I'm Jaron Spor, National College Football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We've got another football pack show for you today. The Athletic, as I mentioned, they dropped their rivalries. We're going to dive into that a little more. But Peyton Houston, a big-time quarterback in the 2027 class, has been pinged to go to USC. And you wonder, why was that? Did that matter for Mississippi State? Because Mississippi State has not been linked to his recruitment. Well, we're going to tell you why that could affect Mississippi State down the road. Also, the SEC Unfiltered released its head coaching rankings. We're going to talk about where Jeff Lebby ranks and if we agree with that. But first, let's start with the Athletics list. The Athletic does a great job, especially in the offseason, giving some great content. But they came up with the top 100 rivalries, and I had an issue with just about the whole list. But let's mainly start with the Ole Miss Mississippi State rivalry. It came in at number 23. All it does is tell you how many meetings there's been, when was the first meeting, what the overall record was, which we obviously know Ole Miss leads the all-time series. And then the only other Mississippi State one I saw, unless I missed it, was the LSU one, and that came in at number 100. First meeting in 1896, 117 total meetings. LSU leads that series as well. So let's mainly focus on the Egg Bowl because that's the big one for us here at Mississippi State, obviously. I just don't get it. I don't know what else to say.
I don't either. I will say they did a much better job with their ranking of the names of rivalries. They had the Egg Bowl at 12, but I mean, some of these rivalries have great names. I mean, some I've never heard of, like the Moonshine Throwdown. Great name. That deserves a high ranking. Anyway, back to the actual games. I don't get it. I think it should be higher, obviously. I mean, ranked one a spot above it is Iowa, Wisconsin, which I didn't really know was a rivalry.
And the worst one is Washington and Oregon. Like, what are we doing here? It's ranked above it.
Yeah, I mean, Harvard, Yale, let's be real, should be like number 2 or 1. Like,
yeah, if you want to go off of the all-time history, but none of those programs matter. Neither one matters anymore. But I'm going through this whole list. I could probably have an issue with almost this whole list. Michigan, Ohio State, number 1. I get it.
Sure.
That one makes a lot of sense. I think Oklahoma and Texas is the best just because of the neutral field kind of puts it over the top. But if you want to go Michigan, Ohio State, I'm not going to argue that. OU, Texas, I would have number 2. They have it number 3. Number 2, they have Auburn and Alabama. I think it's the most overrated rivalry in all of sports. That might be a hot take, but I wouldn't have Auburn and Alabama in my top 15 in rivalries.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's very overrated. It's just a hard one because everyone remembers like the 2 or 3 big moments that have happened in like the last 30 years. And besides that, it's been a pretty boring rivalry. One that's weird, which I get, historical, number 6, Nebraska, Oklahoma, very historical rivalry. It's been so long since they played. It's kind of weird.
They obviously had that home and home in 21 and 22, but outside of that, since they've split conferences, I think they do have another home and home scheduled, but it's just not one that's really there. Army, Navy at number 4, I get, again. Neither team is usually any good, but it's always fun to watch.
Yeah.
I do agree with Joel Klatt, though. He talked about moving that to week 0.
Yes.
A lot of people were upset about that, but I actually agree with that. I think it would be an amazing week 0 game because week 0 is a lot of duds mostly. And I think Army Navy would be a fantastic way to kick off the season. And I think that would be the perfect way to kick off the season. So not just week 0. And I don't want it to be the only game. I want there to be other games, but I want it to be week 0 and the first game that kicks off. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think it would be a great place for it too. And what we've done is we've just basically said why Egg Bowl should be probably, top 10 at least. I mean,
I would have it top 10. I mean USC,
maybe.
Notre Dame, I get. Miami, Florida State really ain't nothing anymore. Ohio State, Penn State, I don't even think of it as a rival. They've met 40 times total.
Again, that's a conference rivalry. That's not a rivalry.
Right. That's just two teams that have been good lately. But again, Ohio State has dominated it. They've met 40 times. It's 26-14 Ohio State. It's not like it's a year in, year out rivalry. I get the Florida State one. Yeah. The Minnesota-Wisconsin one's an interesting one because it's an amazing rivalry in terms of they've met 134 times, and it's 63, 63, and 8.
It's great.
You can get for a rivalry.
That's great, and I love the trophy for that one. Just the Battle of Paul Bunyan's axe. Just giant piece of wood.
Yeah,
it's a great trophy.
It is.
Stuff like that is what I love about college football. I mean, on the old games, you remember back? I think it was like NCAA 2012 or something, where you actually had to take classes and you had to answer questions. I always did college rivalries, and the questions where you had to name what each of the rivalries were. So Paul Bunyan's axe, and then the USC Notre Dame, the battle for the jeweled shillelagh, who are always my two favorite names.
Yeah.
But
so let's go through the rivalries above them and just simply say, is it a better rivalry than this one?
Yeah.
So let's just start with Michigan, Ohio State. I would say no.
Michigan, Ohio State, I think it is. I mean, to an extent, nationally.
No, I'm saying I don't think the Egg Bowl is better than Michigan.
I agree
Ohio
with
State.
that. Yes.
Correct. Is it better than Auburn, Alabama? I say yes.
Oh, yeah, easily.
I don't think it's better than OU, Texas.
No.
I don't think it's better than Army, Navy.
No.
And I don't think it's better than USC, Notre Dame.
Agreed.
I think in its heyday, it's not, or when Nebraska and Oklahoma was in its heyday, it's not better. But now that they don't really play, I've talked to Oklahoma fans. The ones that are older still look at Nebraska as a rivalry. The newer generation doesn't see it. And so I would put – I understand why Oklahoma and Nebraska is very high because for decades it was an amazing rivalry, but it's just not there anymore.
No, it's not.
And so I would put Ole Miss
and
Mississippi State over it. Miami, Florida State, I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State's better.
I do too.
I think Ohio State, Penn State, Ole Miss and Mississippi State's better.
I don't think Ohio State Penn State's really a rivalry.
I agree with that. And definitely not top 10. Florida State, I get it. I would say that's more of a toss-up.
Yeah, that's a coin flip to me too.
Yeah. Minnesota, Wisconsin. I'll give Minnesota and Wisconsin that one just because of how great the series
is. It's so old
been.
And it's been so tight. Yeah, that one's one. Watchability, it's probably much lower, but for the history of it and that the fact they're still going, I'd put it slightly above it.
Yeah. Alabama, Tennessee, I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State's better.
I do too. I think it's just that better rivalry. I mean, I understand the Bama Tennessee is very intense. One of my buddies is a huge Tennessee fan. He gets super hyped up for that game every year, but I mean, it just doesn't have, that juice that a rivalry has to outside fans.
I agree. Georgia, Florida, the world's largest cocktail outdoor cocktail party. I think Georgia, Florida is a better rivalry than Ole Miss.
I do too,
and I think it's top 10. So having them at 12, I think is a shame.
I agree with that.
Alabama, LSU. I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State's a better rivalry than that one. That's a newer rivalry. That was more of a rivalry because Saban.
Right.
I don't ever remember hearing about that before Saban, and it's really lost its luster at this point too.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of those rivalries. They just kind of played each other a lot, and then they became rivals, actual rivals. So, yeah, I'd put it much lower.
USC, UCLA, give me the Egg Bowl.
Yeah, I'd take the Egg Bowl over that one for sure.
Texas and Texas A&M, I'll give that one. I think that's a really good rivalry. And I will say for a while, because it was gone, I would have put the Egg Bowl ahead of it, but now it's back. So I would put that.
That first game with having it back was fun,
Yeah.
It was cool to see all that again.
Yeah. Michigan State, give me the Egg Bowl.
Yep, taking the Egg Bowl.
Auburn and Georgia, give me the Egg Bowl.
Yep.
Michigan and Notre Dame's an interesting one because they've only played 44 times.
But they really hate each other.
They do hate each other. And they've played the first time they played was 1887.
That's a weird one.
Give me Michigan and Notre Dame in that one, but it's at least close.
I think that one depends on where you're from. If you're from the north, you're taking Michigan, Notre Dame. If you're from the south, and I don't mean SEC South. I mean below Kansas
State.
I think you go Egg Bowl.
Yeah. Kansas and Missouri, it's the Egg Bowl. And I know that rivalry's coming back for, I can't remember if they're doing a home and home, but they're playing this year. I think are they week 0? They're either week 0 or week 1.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing, or they're early in the year. I don't know if it's necessarily week 0 or week 1, but the Egg Bowl is better in that rivalry. I'm sorry. It's better than the Border War because we got to remember for years, Kansas sucked for years. And Missouri wasn't great either.
Right. Yeah, both those teams historically have not been very good. I will say the Border War is a great name for a rivalry.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that two teams that aren't historically very good got that name.
Yeah. Harvard, Yale, I get what you were saying. 140 years. If you want to argue it's better, I won't fight you on it. It's just those are two teams that haven't mattered in like 60 years, and so that's why.
That's one. If you have history, you put it up high, but if you care about now, it's much lower.
Yeah, Washington and Oregon, the Egg Bowl's better. I can't even believe they have Washington and Oregon over them.
I don't consider, again, not a rivalry to me. That's just two teams in the same conference.
Yeah, and in the same region of the country.
Yeah.
Iowa, Wisconsin, again, give me the Egg Bowl.
Yeah, easily.
So we got Ole Miss and Mississippi State in that top.
At least 10 to 12, maybe.
You know, and there's some games behind it that I'm like, man, they're better than a lot of the rivalries ahead. Bedlam, Oklahoma State, Pitt, and West Virginia. I would even put up there.
Oregon State. Utah,
and I get even Nebraska and Colorado.
Hey, give me 20 through like 35 over their top 15 if I'm being
Yeah. No, there's some good ones on here. Let's see. Texas and Arkansas is a great one. I hope that one gets you know, I know it's renewed right now, but I mean, when they come up with permanent opponents, I hope it stays renewed because that's a really
Pitt and Penn State. That's a fun one.
Yeah. And I will say West Virginia and Pitt are similar to some of these other ones. They kind of play a one-off here and there. But I think they've played the last few seasons. Yeah. But that's a really fun one. The Backyard Brawl, isn't that what they call it?
Yeah.
I think it's the Backyard Brawl. So that one's a really fun one. So I don't know. I think that's
but I think we need to.
The Athletic does a great job, but I don't know about that one. But yeah, we could go all day on this one. All right, we got to talk about Peyton Houston getting predicted to go to USC, but how does that affect Mississippi State? We'll talk about that coming up next. Well, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You've already followed the action, and why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I know a lot of people who use FanDuel to track their favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotion and fun ways to bet. My favorite part about it, it's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. If you're new to FanDuel, listen up. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so Peyton Houston is a 2027 quarterback prospect out of Louisiana. He has been predicted recently by Steve Whitfong, who is kind of like, for those that don't know, he's like the Woj of recruiting. Like when he puts something in, they call it "you've been fonged," and that usually means he's going to that school. Well, he's been recently fonged to go to, I believe it was Whitfong that did it. Now I'm thinking it might be Spiegelman that did it. But both of them do a really good job regardless. And he's been predicted to go to the USC Trojans. Mm-hmm. Why does this matter? Well, it's because Peyton Houston has kind of long been thought of going to the Oklahoma Sooners. Mm-hmm. He's, again, a high 4-star prospect. I know he's like I think he's Oklahoma's only quarterback offer. He's also USC's only quarterback offer. And so both of those teams are not going to be given up just because a prediction has flown out. Like they're going to battle it out. But when that commitment went there, you always wonder, okay, well, who would Oklahoma go to? Because they're going to take a quarterback. Who would Oklahoma go to if they lost out on Peyton Houston? So I did some digging. I told you guys yesterday that on On3, if you are subscribed to one of the sites, you get access to all of it. You just can't comment on everything. So I went over to Oklahoma's page and kind of went through it, and they asked their recruiting experts, okay, Peyton Houston might go to USC. What would Oklahoma then do? Mm-hmm. The name they brought up, Malachi Ziegler. And that, for those that don't remember, he's a 4-star prospect, also from Louisiana, and that is Mississippi State's top target at quarterback. So that right there is why it could matter big time if Peyton Houston ends up going to USC and not to Oklahoma, which has been kind of the thought for a while.
Yeah, things like this, these are always the fun dominoes to track down. I mean, they're obviously never fun when they negatively impact your school, but they're the fun ones to track down, the little dominoes through the recruiting trail. But that would be huge. I mean, I know we can sit here and we talk about the guys who are on the roster now. You have Mario Taylor there, Brody McCorder coming in. Both of us big fans of both of those guys. So I know some people will be like, well, why does it matter? You know, if you really get that next high profile or very good quarterback, because if those two guys do what you think they can, he might only see the field 1 year, or he sits there for a year and then transfers out. But quarterback is one of those positions you want to always be bringing in high-end talent, because injuries happen, transfers happen. You never know what's going to happen with anything. So, I mean, it's one of those positions you always have to bring in talent. So this would be a big blow.
Yeah, and I will caution everyone, because Oklahoma has not offered yet. Like I said, their only offer is to Peyton Houston. Oklahoma has shown interest. It's on there, even on On3's website, that they've shown interest. And right now he's predicted to go to SMU, with Ole Miss as kind of his second one. So it's possible he doesn't even go to Oklahoma, but because it's going to be a dogfight for him regardless of what team you are, because his ranking is kind of all over the place. On3 has him as a 3-star, number 20 ranked quarterback. But 24/7 Sports and Rivals both have him as a top 100 prospect and a 4-star. So he's a guy that is, if he has a big year, could probably solidify himself as a 4-star. But yeah, that's why you got to sometimes, especially in recruiting, you got to kind of always be aware of everything that's going on. Because, the Peyton Houston news came out, and I tweeted on our account, like, this could affect Mississippi State. I saw so many people say, why? He's going to, like, USC? Like, how does that factor? Well, because if he goes to USC, then Oklahoma's got to get a quarterback, and then Oklahoma might go for your quarterback that you're going after. And so it's just a snowball effect. And while Lebby is a quarterback guru, let's just face it, Mississippi State's not the program Oklahoma is. And people can say, well, Oklahoma wasn't good last year. The brand is still the brand. So, I mean, it's going to be hard for Malachi to say no to Oklahoma if they come at him hard and instead say, I'll go to Mississippi State or Ole Miss or SMU or whoever. Obviously, NIL can change things and things like that, but that's why you just got to keep an eye on that one. And it's a 2027 prospect, so a lot of things I'm sure will change between now and then.
Yeah, and let's just take a moment to realize how much fun this is, that we have former OU head coach Lincoln Riley, OU and former OU OC all going after the same couple of guys here. So
that one's kind of fun. But I will say this, I did read from Peyton Houston. He kind of wants to take in the season this year, but he wants to commit kind of early because he wants to get to helping to recruit whatever team he goes to. So that's just one to keep an eye on for Mississippi State fans for sure going forward. But all right, coming up next, SEC Unfiltered released their quarterback rankings in the SEC. Where does Jeff Lebby rank? We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so SEC Unfiltered's Chris Phillips released his top 16 coaches, obviously just ranking the SEC ahead of the media days, which I believe kicks off next week. And just real quick for those out there, yesterday they did announce, Mississippi State announced who is going to media days. We'll talk about that more on Thursday's podcast, though. So it's not something we didn't see or forgot. We just had other topics that are a little more important. Also, Zach Selman kind of somewhat gave an update on his future at Mississippi State. So we'll talk about that more on Thursday's podcast as well. So stick around for that one. But he released his top 16. Jeff Lebby, number 16.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, we've talked about it before when we've seen similar rankings like this. When you're, you have 1 year as a head coach and you won 2 games, you're going to be last. Unless there's just someone who didn't win any games, you're going to be last. So it's not really surprising to see Lebby at 16. Some of the rest of his list is a little surprising, but yeah, where Lebby ended up is not surprising to me.
It's quite a bit surprising. So let's focus on Lebby first.
Yes.
I think it's obviously, I think it's an incomplete grade is what you have to give him because he's had 1 year and went 2-10, but the program was in shambles when he took over. So
yeah,
I would have him over some guys that have been there that haven't performed well. So like Sam Pittman, for example, which Hugh Freeze even, for example, has been there multiple years. They haven't played. Auburn hasn't done well, which Sam Pittman's number 13. So he's actually pretty high. I think they're down on Mark Stoops. Again, Mark Stoops has been a staple and has been a very good coach, and he has one down year, and they're down on him. So that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that one was the big one to me. Is like, why is Mark Stoops 15? You're going to give – I mean, he built that program into be a very consistent, very good program, and one bad year.
Boom. Second worst coach. Like, you're not ranking teams. You're ranking coaches. And then my other one is, they put Lane Kiffin at 3 and Josh Heupel at 4. They're essentially the same coach. Yeah, only Josh Heupel has a college football playoff appearance and Lane Kiffin doesn't.
Yeah,
they're like the same coach.
Incredibly similar coach. I mean, I guess kind of like 3 through about 7. If you put those guys in any order in those places, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really argue. I mean, that's just that tier. Those kind of guys, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. All of those.
Yeah, and I think Mike Elko has a chance to move up that list quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think Jeff Lebby, when this list comes out next year, will not be in last place. Might be a hot take. I don't think Sam Pittman's going to be on the list next year. So
I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of these guys aren't there. So
well, and there are going to be a couple that aren't there. Hugh Freeze is another one that's coaching for his job this year. He's recruited really well, but now we have all this controversy about him golfing too much. He puts out to another poor season, which he had 3 straight losing seasons.
Something like that, yeah.
It's either 2 or 3, and he's going for 3 or 4, whichever one it is. He puts out another losing season. I mean, he's not going to be there much longer either.
Yeah, and if the Gators fall off after the hot streak at the end of last year, Napier might be gone. So
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And one that I've kind of heard that's surprising is Brian Kelly, because he's done pretty good there.
Yeah,
but he hasn't made the playoff.
Right.
I've seen many things that if they believe if he doesn't make the playoff with the roster he's got, he might be gone, which is kind of crazy to think about because he is actually a really, really good coach.
He's a very good coach, but they brought him in to compete for titles. And if he can't even make it to the playoff, then, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen to him there.
Hey, Coach O and Les Miles did it. So you got to get it done, Brian Kelly.
You got to get going. But, yeah, it's not surprising where Lebby is, but I do think this will be the last year we see him this low.
Yeah. Like I said, I would put him over Hugh Freeze. I'd put him over Sam Pittman right now because those guys have been there a while. Yeah, and Pittman had 1 season where he was really good. Outside of that, it's 5 years. He's been there 5 years, so 4 years of disappointment. And then Hugh Freeze has not been good. Hugh Freeze was really good at Ole Miss. He cheated, allegedly, and that's why he did well. And that's why he allegedly got fired. But then he has not done well at Auburn at all. So.
No, he hasn't. And I'd agree with that. And my feelings about Sam Pittman as a coach, I've made very clear multiple times. So don't need to go down that road.
And just to be clear, I think Auburn's got a chance to be really good this year.
Yeah, they do.
Because I'm high on Jackson Arnold. Despite him playing bad last year, I'm high on him. I think he fits their offense perfectly. They've got some studs at receiver.
Yeah, they do.
So I think Auburn could be really good. But if he's not good this year, he's going to be gone. I mean, he just is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with you with Jackson Arnold. I mean, sometimes not every freshman lights the world on fire. And I know he wasn't technically like a freshman, but
and then you throw in your offensive line was hurt most of the year. Yeah. Your top 5 wide receivers were out essentially the whole season. Like it's not a great situation and then you're going to a new conference in the SEC.
Yeah,
and you have one of the toughest toughest schedules in the country. It's not a great recipe for a young quarterback.
No,
I'm not completely out on him, but. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over in Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Check out, we put a daily video there on all of the platforms. We also would love you to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell on YouTube. We are really doing good. Last time I looked, let's see what we're at now. Subscribers.
581, I believe, is where we're at.
581. I think we were 572 yesterday when we did our podcast. Moving up. So thank you for that. Again, our goal is to get to 1,000 by middle of the football season. So Tell your friends. Excited for football season to get here. Media days next week. Really excited about that as well. And like I said earlier, we'll get more into that on tomorrow's episode. Who's going to be going, what Zach Selman said about possibly going back to Oklahoma and taking over for Joe Castiglione. We'll get into that as well. But, a lot of exciting things happening. So until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.